Good morning, and the start of the Castrol 6 Hour, the 16th annual Castrol 6 Hour Motorcycle Production Classic, is almost ready to start. It's a red letter day here at Oran Park, the 2.6 kilometre circuit south of Sydney, for the Castrol 6 Hour. In previous years, the race has been dominated by one or two manufacturers, but this year, all four Japanese manufacturers start equal favourites. If there is one underdog, it's the very powerful but also very heavy Honda team, and that's to say that the star of this show, Australian international Wayne Gardner, will have to ride with all his skill and verve to make up the deficit. The central commentary position today is headed by Will Hagan, and with him is a very special commentator.
Rain, the rider's horror, already starting to fall, so it's almost certain that John Smales will have a wet day down in the pits. I'll be in central commentary with one of the world's, I think, most naturally gifted motorcycle riders, a man who once was second in the World 500cc Championship, New Zealander Graham Crosby, who, however, never managed to win the 6 Hour, which you must reckon is a hard race to win, Graham.
Well, I've tried it a lot of times and I've never been able to do it, and especially today, I don't envy those guys out there.
Very hard plugging around in the rain and with a lot of traffic.
Well, mainly the concentration in the wet and extreme slippery conditions is going to make it difficult, Will.
And this year, all four Japanese manufacturers in with a chance, with a genuine winning chance.
Oh, every manufacturer's got at least 2 or 3 good teams there, and any one of them's going to do it.
And how many riders and teams could win?
I would say at the moment, there's probably 12 teams that are capable of doing it in the conditions that we're going to prevail today.
This is the scene. 42 bikes lined up on the grid, and 42 very tense riders over there on the grass on the right-hand side, waiting for the off, which is now about 2.5 minutes away. This is the way they qualified yesterday. Neil Chivers, as you can see, who will start the ride on bike number 6, clear fairly well by 1 second of Roger Hayes, who will start on bike 16. Len Willing will be first rider on bike 4. On 14 it'll be Robert Holden. Wayne Clark will ride the opening session on his bike, and Kevin McGee on bike number 1. You can see too how close the times are. And again in the next pair of bikes, 2 bikes on identical times. In that case, John Pace doing the opening stint, Paul Feeney doing it on number 5. Mark Mountfort on 28, Rod Cox on number 2. And again, you can see how many of the bikes are close in times. Alan Delatour will lead away on bike 12, and Robbie Phillis on bike number 8. Now that's the first 12, but below there's some notable bikes. Number 7, Glenn Taylor, starting from 14th grid position, and a former winner of the race back in 83, number 9, Malcolm Campbell, in 18th grid position. His co-rider, Ben Middlemas, went out in the dry session yesterday, Malcolm having done his qualifying in the wet, and Middlemas couldn't pull out a good time, so we'll be looking to that bike to make its way up through the field as the race gets underway. Graham Crosby, this is a dreadfully tense moment when riders are quite unnatural. Their brains aren't in gear.
That's for sure. I'm sure some of them have left their brains in the toolbox too.
60 seconds now to the start of the Castrol 6 Hour, the 16th in what has been a great motorcycle race series. It is for purely stock production bikes, which means they must be absolutely as they're sold in the showroom. And that means in the case of the FZ Yamaha 750, a brilliant bike, but it does ground its foot pegs and mufflers, and the organisers have demanded that the bikes start with new mufflers. So in the opening stint on those bikes, they will be looking to grind them away, and it'll be a bit discomforting for riders for the first 15 or 20 seconds. Now just seconds remain. Sprint across, all of the bikes with electric starts, 42 of them lined up. It's 15 now. Fastest Honda, 10th grid position. 2 Suzukis in grid positions 1 and 2. Kawasaki, 3rd position. 5 seconds. Flag in the background. Brilliant start from the middle of the field there by a red-leathered rider. Couldn't pick him. But got a great jump. It's 4. That's Len Willing on the Kawasaki, and won't he love that? Romping away from on bike number 2. It's Rod Cox on the Wayne Gardner bike. He's in second place. An incredibly packed field. I've never seen 42 bikes look so busy. And bike number 3, John Pace, Jeff Sale at the tail end of the field. In third place is number 8 at the moment. That's Rob Phillis, Scott Stevens. But Jeff Sale, John Pace. Last year, Jeff Sale didn't get the bike going at all. The bike gave trouble on the starting grid, and he seems to be having a similar problem this year. But it's Len Willing with a brilliant break on the Kawasaki Graham Crosby that really has got so much grunt. It would have been nice to ride away from the grid there.
Well, it certainly would be. It's got a good set of carburetors on that one, and it's very, very easy to ride through the corners. What these guys are going to have to watch now is the fact that the circuit is not totally dry, and there are patches of red, patches of wet. It's going to be a bit of a problem for the first 2 or 3 laps till they sort themselves out at least.
Len Willing has a lead, unbelievable, of 4.2 seconds. It seems impossible, but it's massive, the lead that Len Willing has. He has blitzed the field at this stage. We'll get another read on it. He goes down the straight, and indeed, it's 4.14 across the start-finish line. A sensational start for the Kawasaki, and in fact, Kawasaki's, really, although Willing qualified 3rd, the next one was 19th, so they're not so well placed. Looking at number 9 is Malcolm Campbell, Ben Middlemas. So Campbell got away well. He was in 18th grid position.
Well, this is the sort of strategy we'd expect from the Kawasaki's, as they haven't got a very, very good fuel consumption, and they've really got to play the rabbit in the first early session just to make sure that they can get through and build up as much of a lead as possible.
And I think rain falling? No, not yet, but the ground is certainly damp. Track wouldn't be too bad as we look at number 2, Rod Cox ridden bike at the moment, that he'll be sharing with Wayne Gardner. Number 6 in behind him is Neil Chivers, Dave Hiscock, who qualified fastest. So it's Kawasaki there, Kawasaki 900. And Willing really going for it. That's the gap. And he's now being hauled in to some extent. He's had that lead diminished as we look at Neil Chivers, Dave Hiscock through the kink there at about 190 kilometres an hour. Then it's Rob Phillis in 2nd. 3rd is Rod Cox. 4th is bike 6. That's the Neil Chivers bike. And then 5th, tucked in behind him, I think, is Michael Dowson. Indeed it is. So that's the first 5. Then in 6th place is number 8. That's Rob Phillis, Scott Stevens. 37 there, doing very well, Tony Armstrong, Sam Forsyth. 14, heading that pack, is Robert Holden, Neil Robinson. Willing, and you can see he's not been able to hang on to that 4-second margin. The man who's won an unlimited Grand Prix at Bathurst and who's these days tending to concentrate on production bikes, doing a good job, but 2.16 seconds his lead. Here on 9, and very busy too, Malcolm Campbell, who's had a wretched time in the 6 hour virtually since the year he won it in 83. But look at that, from 18th grid position, Malcolm Campbell, now 2nd and catching Len Willing. Really flying. That, of course, is on the 1000cc Honda. Then 6, Neil Chivers. He's sharing that bike with Dave Hiscock, a New Zealander. Won the Swan Series on a couple of occasions. And you can see how much Campbell's reining in. Rod Cox is tucked in closely behind Chivers, and Dowson's close to him. A real pack there for 3rd, 4th and 5th position. Suzuki, 750 in that pack. With the right-hand muffler, it's a 4-into-1 exhaust system. Look how clear it is of the ground, and nothing on the left-hand side to scrape, unlike the Yamahas. Honda's extremely well placed. It's Kawasaki with, in fact, there's Malcolm Campbell. Is Malcolm Campbell ever flying?
Certainly is, Will.
Going like a rocket. Look what he's done to a more than 4-second lead that Len Willing had on lap 1, and this is only lap 4 coming up to the finish now. Starting on lap 5.
Very disconcerting for Len Willing, who thinks he's trying to pull out a good gap there and put a bit of a time margin between the guys behind him, but it would be too nice to look around and see Mal Campbell hovering around his back wheel.
Mal Campbell too, taking the Western Underwriters Superbike Series off Robbie Phillips this year, the only man in fact to pin him down. They're on lap 5, and fairly obviously the lead in the Castrol 6 Hour, the 16th totally production motorcycle race with very tight scrutineering. I think about to change, but Willing looks as though he's got a little bit of response. Is there an obvious place, Graham Crosby, for the big heavy Honda with enormous mid-range torque to get past the Kawasaki?
Well, I would think down the straight's probably the easiest and safest, but you can see by the way Mal's riding it, he wants that lead.
Well, that is a sensational start from 18th grid position. Just unbelievable.
The things that go through your mind when you're starting this 6-hour race is that you've got to make a showing. It's no good running around the 10th or 12th spot for the first hour to break down. Nobody actually sees or hears of you. So you've really got to go out there and make yourself known. And I can see by the way Mal's riding, that's exactly what he wants to do. He wants to put as much of a gap between the rest of the guys and himself.
But Willing is well aware of him now and has replied in his fighting, isn't he?
Well, it appears so. I don't know why at this stage anyway. But a long way to go.
So the two favoured bikes, the FZ 750 Yamaha and the GSX-R 750 Suzuki, with oil cooling of the engine rather than water cooling, uses its own lubricating oil going through a jacket around the engine to cool the engine, and so saves the weight of the water and of the bigger passages and radiator that would be required. Gee, the Kawasaki punched out of that corner well.
It did, it certainly did, Will, but just watch the Honda through here. He's got an enormous amount of mid-range power, and he catches right up behind Len Willing. He'll be lighting him up now to try up the inside, I guess. Now, it's obvious that the two guys are riding fairly equal lap times, and it is difficult to pass in situations like that.
Now he'll be looking to be good through here, won't he, to get a good run onto the straight?
Well,
that's Campbell.
As long as he comes out behind and sits in the slipstream there, he'll get a slingshot effect.
It's a lap time of about 21.85.
There's very little in it, Will. These two bikes are just pretty much the same on acceleration and top speed.
Coming up to lap the Kajiva, number 46, being ridden by Wayne Pratt at the moment, and indeed he's lapped on lap 6.
Looks more like a travelling marshal.
Third place still, as you can see, is bike number 6. Neil Chivers and Dave Hiscock. Neil Chivers riding the bike that took pole position, so it's Kawasaki from Honda, from Suzuki. Len Willing a few years younger than Malcolm Campbell. Malcolm about 33. Wiry, fit and muscled. Willing long and stringy, by far the tallest of the Willing family of motorcycle riders. And can he get the flip-flop right? And he has. Pretty hard area to get past a good rider, Graham.
Well, if you plan your entry to that corner and exit, you should be able to make sure that as you're coming out, you've got that extra bit of acceleration to carry you past into the first part of the flip-flop there.
And Chivers coming up to join them too now on the Suzuki. So that's the leading three bikes in the Castrol 6 Hour, and Willing's gone back to the lead on the Kawasaki. Campbell on the Honda back to second. Chivers is in third place on the Suzuki. So the only one we're waiting to see representation from, as we see it, a 21.93 second lap time, is the Yamahas. And bike number 8 is doing that job for them. It's in 4th place.
That's the Suzuki.
Sorry.
Will, number 1, Mike Dowson. He's just about to join.
So Campbell, with the problem that often hits riders and drivers of not being able to get past the guy in front and then being threatened from behind. So that indeed is Rob Phillips, Scott Stevens on bike number 8 at the moment. Rob Phillips is riding. He qualified 12th, so he's done a bit of a Malcolm Campbell too.
Well, of course, the qualifying times yesterday weren't really a full representation of the rider's ability because of obviously the wet conditions and dry conditions not giving riders a fair run.
We have just over a second covering this, and that's Michael Dowson, who won the race last year in a sensational ride. Campbell's back to second past Chivers, and now Phillips is with him, and Dowson's coming up too. So it'll give us 2 Suzukis, a Honda, Kawasaki and the Yamaha in the top 5. To me, Neil Chivers, Michael Dowson were really the highlight of last year's race, and Robert Holden, who paired with Chivers. They came 3rd on the 750 Suzuki, which was relatively uncompetitive, and as Willing blast past a lapped rider, and they just rode so hard right from the off. And I think it was Dowson's riding like that on the relatively underpowered but very agile Yamaha 500 that really made the win for him by just 3 seconds from Wayne Gardner on the 1000cc Honda, similar to the updated model that Malcolm Campbell's riding now. Chivers, you can see there in the middle of this pack of 5. A 20.3 their last lap, so down come the times as the riders are confident in the track surface, and as they're being pressured, Chivers is now second. Suzuki.
That little Suzuki really goes well. Yes. Pulled out past Mal Campbell on the big Honda.
Yes, on a 1000cc Honda. Here comes another Suzuki and the Yamaha of Michael Dowson. And boy, this is a freight train. That was a 20.99 second lap time, averaging around 120 kilometres an hour. And coming up to join that Group 2 is yet a 6th bike at the tail end there. Lap 9 they're on. Sorry, completed, they're on 10. Willing leading the pack through on lapped riders. And the first time they see him jump through, they suddenly become aware. So it's Willing that's doing the hard work for them. 1.1 seconds separates the first 6 bikes in the Castrol 6 hour. As trying a leap underneath them was Rob Phillips on bike number 8. So it's Chivers now leading as they go on to lap 11. The Suzuki of Chivers leads from Len Willing. Then in 3rd place is bike number 8, Rob Phillips. So Suzuki's 1 and 3, Kawasaki 2 and Honda back to 4. Mal Campbell, who led briefly, has been forced back to 4th place. Kawasaki swooping past Rob Phillips, who's trying to slot his Suzuki up in there too. So already we've had 3 different race leaders and more changes of first place than that. Chivers looking as though he just might be starting to pull a brake, Graham.
He would be trying to, but everybody else would be trying to hang on. I see Roger Hayes just sliding up there as well.
And Len Willing losing a piece there. As I think it was Campbell diving underneath him, but boy, the reliance of each on the other there as they come up to lap number 22, Terry Yates, Terry Morris. Chivers leading the pack now. And then come up to lap 32, Ian Swift, Kevin Horton, the Yamaha 750. So Chivers from Rob Phillis now is second. Suzuki's 1 and 2, but are a thirstier bike than the FZ Yamaha. And now Campbell third. So Willing has been forced well and truly back. There you see Willing fourth. Dowson might just get underneath him in a moment on number 1. That's the best placed of the Yamahas. You see them there, right on the tail of the green leathers. And another pair of bikes coming up to join the charge, including the first of the Matic team bikes, one of the FZ 750 Yamahas. And this is the race situation. You can see the leader there, Rob Phillis from Neil Chivers, Roger Hayes. So 3 Suzukis in the first 3 places, relegating Honda and Kawasaki further back to 4th place for the man that led initially, 5th place for the man who led very briefly, and 6th for the man who's yet to get there, Michael Dowson, being paired by Kevin McGee, a great up-and-coming rider on bike number 1, the best placed of those 5 valves per cylinder Yamahas.
And with me is Chris Matic from the Pirelli team, and it is starting to get wet down here, Chris.
That's for sure, John, yeah.
Your rider, Richard Scott, is back a little bit from this dice, this magnificent dice that's going on for the lead. Why?
Well, if it had been raining, we would have put Paul Feeney on the bike originally, but it was dry to start with, so Richard went on the bike. He's been the quickest in the dry, but as much as he's in 5th place, he's only 4 seconds behind the leaders, so he's just sitting at the tail end of this leading bunch. Now that it's raining, I think he's obviously playing caution at the moment. We've still got 5.5 hours to go.
Chris, this rain's going to be coming in and out all day. What's the tactics tyre-wise?
Well, we're in a very fortunate position. We don't have to change tyres if it's raining. Some of our opposition, though, have got a different tyre choice if it's raining as opposed to if it's dry. So normally they would change front and rear. We don't have to change either, so it doesn't make any alteration to our plan at all.
This is a question best thrown at Graham Crosby, but I'll ask you, what does it do to a rider when it suddenly pours in raining like it's doing at the moment?
Graham would probably love it, actually. Yeah, at this stage, they're obviously going to be thinking that there's a long way to go, and you know, some of the guys they're racing with are prepared to take a little more risk than the other. But they're in the groove now, fortunately. They've just got to try and judge their pace back to a wet weather pace, you know. It's difficult, but all these guys have been doing it for a long time.
And they really are tippy-toeing.
A lot of these riders will be worrying about the fogging up of the visors. You get this film build up on the inside of the visor, which is very, very difficult to see through. And of course, you have to treat the visor before you go out in the rain. And also, your gloves will become waterlogged and very, very difficult to hang on to the bike. Your leathers will become soaked, and it becomes very, very uncomfortable.
Yes, Robbie Phillis was making different choices of glove according to whether it was going to be wet or dry, and going to wear sort of kitchen washing up gloves over his very lightweight leather ones if it was wet, but he'll probably have the wrong ones on now.
Most of these top-line riders have a couple of suits, so in between times they'll be able to change them, but they'll probably keep the red.
And that's number 12 gone, and riding that is Ian Saunders, Alan Delatour.
That's Alan on the bike there, Will. Be very, very disappointed.
Yeah, Buster Saunders to share the bike with him. And you can see the rider's okay, but the bike doesn't come out of that sort of a toss very well. Thumped the back wheel and thrown that out of alignment, thumped the front as well, and then had a go at the top end of the bike with the instruments and the fuel tank.
Yes, I think we can count that one out.
They were well back in the field at that stage. Weren't in the leading group. As we look now at Len Willing from in 2nd place, Rob Phillis. 3rd place, Michael Dowson. 4th place, he's on number 1, is Neil Chivers. 6th, 5th place on 9, Malcolm Campbell. 6th place on 5 is Richard Scott, the Chris Matic team bike. Followed by, on number 16, Roger Hayes. So he's been forward to 4th and gone back in the rain a little bit. Then Robert Holden, who's also fallen back a touch in the rain on 14. They're followed then by Rod Cox, who has faded also a bit in the rain on bike number 2. And then 10, Wayne Clark, Dave Peterson, Yamaha 750. Down in the pit area again, we've got another rider who came to grief talking with John Smales.
This is the view that Alan Delatour had through his safety helmet when his Yamaha went down the road. What happened, Alan?
Oh, well, the front end just washed out on me, and that was it. Just probably trying a little bit too hard in the rain.
Conditions really slippery for you?
Very greasy out there at the moment, yes.
Well, we saw Buster Saunders running as hard as his little legs would carry him up Pitt Straight to try and retrieve the bike. Is it reclaimable?
Well, I think myself and Buster might be sitting out the rest of the 6 hour this year.
What a shame.
Malcolm Campbell is still in second place, but we've got a change of leader, and the first time that Yamaha has led the race, Kevin McGee on bike number 1 is leading Malcolm Campbell at this stage. There he is, looming out of the mist, and there's Len Willing, the man he's pinned back. So on lap 35, he has not only grabbed the lead, Graham Crosby, but he's stealing it.
He certainly is. Well, Lenny's got his foot out speedway style around some of those slow corners. It just looks as if the rain is really coming down now.
Bike number 1 leading the race is on Pirellis. Bike 4 has Pirelli fronts, Michelin rear. Bike number 9, Malcolm Campbell, has Michelin front and rear. And bike number 5 has Pirelli's front and rear. Bike that Richard Scott's riding. But we've now seen all 4 brands lead the race, and we've seen 5 or 6 different riders lead the race, but the least experienced of them is this man, Kevin McGee, who is doing I think you'd agree, a pretty impressive job. He's been cool in the opening segment, and then now starting to capitalise as he gets used to the conditions.
Well, I've been watching McGee over the last year, and he was actually up in Japan racing up there, and I was very, very impressed with him. He's come from virtually nowhere. He's been riding those mobile air compressors, as I call them, but now he's converted over to the good stuff, and you can see just by how much experience he's gained that this is a result of it. He's riding exceptionally well, and well within his capabilities by the looks of it.
Willing gets boxed in, and McGee goes, and then McGee gets boxed in and goes back to second. Willing leads. John Smales in the pits.
And if there's one good thing about today's weather, at least it's been a godsend for the Honda team. They were really pushing it to get through with only 4 stops today, and the rain, of course, has allowed the riders to back off the throttle and therefore get through to their 4 stops. So good news for the Honda team.
Bike number 3 got away last, has had a wretched time so far, being lapped by the field and still well back in the field. The John Pace Jeff Sale bike being ridden in the opening stint by John Pace. But Jeffrey Sale getting into the saddle now. Great scrap going on here for 6th spot, being held by Robbie Phillis. An attack from 7th placed number 14 Robert Holden. Very good and quick Kiwi rider. Both of them on the GSXR 750 Suzukis, and in behind them in 8th place is the one-time race leader, Neil Chivers, in number 6. They have been racing now for 1 hour, 2 minutes and a quarter, in a race that started at 10 a.m. Eastern Summer Time in Australia, and they have covered now 42 laps. They're on their 43rd. And the leader, Willing, has lapped everybody from 6th place backwards, and that includes all but 1 of the Suzuki 750s. So the leading 5 are Willing Kawasaki from Yamaha number 1 McGee, Honda number 9 Malcolm Campbell, Yamaha number 5, which is Richard Scott, and then 16 Roger Hayes is the only Suzuki hanging on that hasn't been lapped. Lapped are Robert Holden on 14, Rob Phillis on 8, Neil Chivers on 6, who, you know, it's unbelievable that leaders could slip back to being a lap down in just over an hour, but that's what's happened, and the track now dry. Graham Crosby, do you think the Suzukis could show the form they previously showed in the dry and start to haul in the leaders?
I'm afraid they're going to have to, Will, because the way these two guys are riding here, it just seems that whether it's just the wet conditions, the Suzukis in the dry seem to have a little bit of an edge. Now, it's starting to dry, but I don't see any big progressive steps from the other Suzukis yet.
900 Kawasaki down the straight, probably doing around 220 kilometres an hour. 750 Yamaha following. Bit down on power, but a slightly lighter bike than the Kawasaki and being beautifully ridden. How do you see the young man? I think he's 24 years old, Graham Crosby.
Well, he's certainly riding with a good head at the moment. I think also he's probably aware that Lenny Willing is about to come in for fuel. He's done the 1 hour and 12 minutes. He can't do an hour and 30, so I would imagine he'll be coming in fairly soon. Now, it'd be good to have that inside your mind when you're following somebody.
And the sort of thing that riders come up against is other riders that they're lapping a good deal slower, having their own dice, such as that one with Michael or Gary Eggins. They sharing bike number 46. And lap there. Sorry, they've switched riders. It's Wayne Pratt, Stephen Radcliffe on a bike that blew its engine in practice. It didn't have a qualifying time. Len Willing to the pits. The race leader in the Castrol 6 hour, 1 hour, 13 minutes and a quarter. Coming into the pits for his first pit stop, so that gives an indication that the Kawasaki 900s, as Kevin McGee blasts off into the lead on the Yamaha 750, that the Kawasaki's cannot get to the hour and a half, even in the wet weather. Len Willing staying on the bike, having a drink, and down to John Smales as in behind him comes Robert Holden.
Len Willing stays on the bike. They've been in for 13 seconds. There is no tyre change. It's only fuel going in. 21 litres into the Kawasaki's tank. Ian Perro standing by. He's rolling. Slow stopping. The bike won't fire. Still won't fire. Perro's running down to it to push it. Bike will not kick over. Start him a watch again. It still won't fire. Goes finally in about 28 seconds. Oh, what a disaster for the Kawasaki team. But no tyre, that's significant as the weather starts to clear up.
What happens there, Will, I would imagine, is that fuel spilt over the tank itself has run down onto the engine and totally changed the air around the carburetor, so the thing would be running totally as rich as it can be. And the only way to start it is to hold the throttle wide open and hope that you can get a lot more air in there. It's just flooded it.
But still holding fourth place is Len Willing on bike number 4, now doing his second stint, so faced with 2 1/4 hours of riding without getting off the bike. Into the pits comes the man who did lead the race at one stage, Neil Chivers, but is more than a lap down now, and in 8th place, John Smales.
And the problem seems to be a rear tyre. David Hiscock is moving in, putting a new Pirelli on the rear. Clock's running at 12.5. Rob Phillips, meantime, has been in and out, stays on the machine, and Rob Phillips blasts out of the pits while Dave Hiscock gets on his bike in a more leisurely fashion. And this is a quite slow stop at the rear. 28.5 seconds gone. The bike's down, and it's moving in 32.9 seconds. So difficulty for Neil Chivers out there. We'll see if we can get him.
Robbie Phillips, a great pit stop. Again, one of 5 people who led the race at one stage, but who before he made that pit stop was a lap down on McGee and Campbell and Richard Scott on the Yamaha number 5. And also on bike number 4, Len Willing. So has a lot to make up down to the pits.
Neil Chivers from pole position way back through the field. What's happened?
Well, John, you should get on the bloody thing and try.
It's really that hard.
Damn slippery out there, mate, and it's a 6-hour race. You know, it's not 1.5 hour or an hour. You know, the trouble is, people like yourself should realise, after commentating for so long on motorsport, you should realise the difficulty on a motorcycle in the wet. Okay, sometimes you have a good day and you can be brilliant, and other days you've got to take it easy. And okay, sure, I was dropping back to a couple of the guys that was going very fast, but
Do you think the
we'll
pace
be
is
there
too,
at the end.
Do you think the pace is too hard out there now?
Definitely not too hard. The guys that are up there in front are doing it well. Good luck to them. You know, later on the day they might slow down and we might be going fast. You know, it's you know, it's difficult to say what you say now. You know.
Well, David Hiscock, the New Zealander who's who's won the Swan Series in the past, who's been racing in South Africa this year. Again, a big tall man, so we do get the comparison there of what Len Willing would look like on one of these very compact Sportster bikes. As we see Dave Hiscock settling into the machine, and according to our lap chart, in 9th place.
I'm just wondering, Will, whether that was actually a good decision to change riders midstream in alternating circuit conditions. You know, we looked at Robbie Phillips. He came in there, stayed on the bike. He was tuned into the circuit conditions. He was in for, you know, 20-odd seconds and straight out again. And he doesn't have that time factor to get back into the groove. Now, Dave will be out here on his GSX there. He's going to find it tough to get into the groove because it's wet, dry, wet, dry. He's got a brand new tyre on as well.
As the leader comes up to lap him for a second time. They were a lap down before they made their pit stop, and Michael Dowson's on, Kevin McGee, poor man, who's done a great job on that bike, but this is to put 2 laps over bike number 6, which is in 9th place at the moment, and McGee does it. Lovely bit of riding over the number 2 rider on bike number 6. Into 2nd place goes Richard Scott on bike number 5 over Malcolm Campbell on the Honda. So it's Yamaha's now 1st and 2nd. And what a brilliant recovery this has been by the Matic team bike. Well, there's 2 of them, of course. Number 5, Richard Scott and Paul Feeney sharing. Number 7, Glenn Taylor and Glenn Williams. But they were well back early on. They didn't get a good start, either of them, and now they've fought their way up into 2nd place, and the Honda of Malcolm Campbell back to 3rd place. And that significantly is at 1 hour 25 minutes, when they are all due within the next 6 minutes or so, not very much longer after that, to make their first of 3 planned pit stops. They need to get to the hour-and-a-half mark to do so. Richard Scott shared the win last year, of course, with Michael Dowson, and virtually matched Dowson's times. They have completed 59 laps now, are on their 60th, and really not very far behind the race leader, Kevin McGee.
Scotty has really got his bit between the teeth. He's really going for it. I don't know why he wasn't actually up there prior to seeing him now, but you know, he's obviously going.
He sure is.
He was dragging the exhaust pipes on it. There's something horrific around Castrol corner there, and sparks flying virtually.
Yes, you can see the actual sort of copper worn away just behind the rider's foot peg. There, you see the bright bit underneath the exhaust pipes. That's where he's grinding away the exhaust pipes and doing the foot pegs at the same time.
Well, in 2 laps, he's virtually pulled out about 5 seconds on Mal Campbell on the big Honda.
And while Michael Dowson's streaming around at the front end of the field, bike 1 in position number 1, and 61 laps completed on his 62nd, and 1 hour 30 minutes and 45 seconds completed. The man who'd got up to 2nd place, number 5, Richard Scott, has pitted. And there he is, Paul Feeney now onto the bike, taking over from Richard Scott. Paul Feeney's had a production race win this year in one of the classic races, and went superbly at Bathurst, the highest placed production bike in the RI 500. It's really been Paul Feeney, a former sidecar rider at one stage. It's been his best year so far. And as you can see now, after that pit stop, the gap between first and what was second is within a whisker of 1 lap. In second place now, back into second, Malcolm Campbell on Honda number 9, followed by Len Willing on Kawasaki number 4. So we still have that spread of Yamaha, Honda, Kawasaki. Then bike 5, I think he's held his 4th place from bike 7, is now in 5th, but a lap down, and that's the John Pace, Jeff Sale, sorry, bike number 7, Glenn Taylor, Glenn Williams, from 14th grid position. And then on 16 is Roger Hayes in 6th place. Number 2, the Wayne Gardner Rod Cox bike, is in 7th, and in 8th place, number 8, Rob Phillips. Into the pits comes the Honda that's in 2nd place at the moment. Malcolm Campbell has led the race, started from 18th grid position, has been further back, moves up onto the stand for a wheel change. And let's go down to John Smales.
The Honda's in the pits at the moment. The clock's on him. He's been in for 9 seconds so far. There is no rear tyre change occurring. It is purely a fuel stop. Mal Campbell's off the bike. Ben Middlemas is on, almost off it in fact. And that stop was 24.86 seconds for fuel only. Now compare that with the Matic stop that just occurred on bike 5. They changed a tyre in 22.5 seconds.
Well, not so neat by the Team Honda Australia entry. But a bike which I think has surprised a lot of people. It was written off as a prime contender last year in the hands of Wayne Gardner, who really did treat it very hard, did a superb job and went within 3 seconds of winning. It's becoming even better this year. What's its main problem, Graham Crosby, in lapping a circuit quickly?
Well, of course, it's a very heavy bike. That's the biggest problem. And you can see here with Ben, it's taken a little while for him to get in the groove. He's under extreme pressure at the moment. He's been handed a bike in 2nd position, and all he has to do is jump on it, go out there and ride it just as hard. But there's a lot of psychological problems involved in taking on a bike like that.
And the rear tyre size is one of the problems, is it not?
Well, 17-inch, it's not too much of a problem now. The tyres are all pretty much the same. Well, the biggest drama with riding something like this is the inability to be able to change directions very, very quickly and through the tight stuff, whereas the little bikes can flick in and out, no problem. These things are, once you're committed to a line, you're stuck with it.
Only Len Willing went past him on Kawasaki number 4, so he's still in 3rd place outright, and in front of 5th place number 5, now ridden by Paul Feeney. And into the pits comes 5th place bike, number 7, 1 lap down. That's the Glenn Taylor, Glenn Williams bike. The 2nd of the Matic Team FZ 750s. Into position for a wheel change. Up it goes. Axles out one side. Wheel away, new wheel in position, helped by the rider. Axle not going in as it should, but now goes in. And on goes the nut. "25 seconds, so plenty of time spent in the pits, and have fallen back to 8th place. And here in the pits, bike number 2, the Wayne Gardner Rod Cox Honda for Mentor Motorcycles, and that was in 7th place when it pitted. Rod Cox is off the bike, handing over to Wayne Gardner, who's taking his pick of some of the most lucrative contracts in world motorcycle racing for the full 500cc Grand Prix season in Europe next year. a tremendous talent, yet one of the first men to crash in practices for this 6 hour. Came off the bike, off the bridge, not that this one, it was their test bike, and crashed off that on Wednesday, but with no damage to himself and only minimal damage to the test bike. And into the pits comes the race leader, Kevin McGee, who really has done a tremendous job, one of 5 people who've led the race so far. In the first 1 hour, 39 minutes of the race, he has covered 69 laps. He's in on his 70th lap and down to John Smales.
Kevin McGee is put up on his stand. They're making a rear wheel change. Michael Dowson moves out. He gets the word from McGee as to what's going on. 10 seconds gone so far. Dowson mounts the bike. This is the moment that he's been waiting for to show his mettle. Last year's race winner. The axle's already back in the bike at 17 seconds. Some problem with the nut. Fuel's in. The fuel is iced to get more in. 26.5 seconds, 27.29 seconds. A very good stop. And Michael Dowson charges back out into the race.
In testing, they can always do their pit stops in under 20 seconds, but it's a different thing when it happens on the day, but still not a bad one, and still in first place.
Well, they've got a terrific teamwork effort there. Will usually takes you longer to change the tyre than put gas in, but in this circumstances here, it just seems to be a pretty equal sort of a time. It's a brilliant effort on behalf of these guys.
And let's hear from John Smales down in the pits with the man who put that bike into the leading position.
A superb effort from Kevin McGee. Your first time with Dowson on the bike, Kevin.
Well, I did actually ride with him at the Nippon Denso 500, but things look like they're shaping up pretty good for us for the first part, so I hope they just keep looking that way.
There are a lot more experienced riders than you, saying conditions out there are absolutely horrible. How did you find it?
You just got to try and remember every little bit of water, and you leaned over and you've got to try and remember where your wheels are. You've got to try and keep your wheels on the dry bit even though you're on top of the wet bit.
But the way the water's changing, I mean, the track's changing lap by lap.
Yeah, well, you've got to watch, sort of try and remember where puddles are, and if guys drag their knee through the puddle and splash water all over the track, well, you could go down the road quite easy. So it's sort of really a smart game.
Kevin, those opening few laps when that big freight train occurred and riders were coming down to sub-lap record times, must have been quite exciting.
Yeah, it was good.
It's the sort of riding you enjoy?
Yeah. I was a bit wary of starting the race, but I'm really glad I did now because I enjoyed it a lot.
Why was that decision made?
For me to start the race?
Yep.
Probably Michael's a bit fitter than I am, and possibly I thought that he might be a bit better under pressure if there's pressure in the closing stages. So I thought more important for him to be on at the last part.
You'll see, I think, in a moment that Len Willing is not very far behind him. And of course, Len Willing on the... There he is, boy, scorching over the dog leg. Comes Willing over Honda Corner, as it's known. It's now Ian... No, it's still Willing on the bike. And that's the gap between first and second place after 71 laps. 1 hour and 42 minutes of racing in this 16th Castrol 6-hour race. Hot on his heels and number 16, Roger Hayes and Robbie Scollier. They, in number 16, are in 5th place but a lap down. That's the gap that you see between them, full lap. So Hayes and Scollier on a dry track at the moment on that Suzuki, and the best placed of the Suzuki still need to pull that lap to be able to pass Willing and to start to haul in the time if they're to have any chance. And Michael Dowson on Len Willing doing a tremendous job. But Len Willing blasts off down the straight, really hikes as they argue over the lead, and the rain starts to fall again in what has already been an incredible and close and hard-fought Castrol 6-hour, and now they're doing this. It's a day that obviously is going to have rain falling intermittently throughout, with The lead being passed back and forth between Yamaha and Kawasaki and perhaps Honda as well. Suzuki, a little bit out of it at the moment. 1 lap down, and that means 1 minute 22 seconds to make up, and that's a hard task. And a hard task too for Wayne Gardner on Honda number 2.
I think this rain that's just arrived is probably a godsend to young Lenny Willing here. He's had the experience just doing an hour in the rain, and now what's happened is it started to rain again, and poor old Mike Dowson, he's been thrown in at the deep end virtually, going out there on a dry track, and now it's starting to rain, so it's going to take him a while probably to get going.
Michael Dowson did a just sensational job, I thought, in this race last year. He took it away from being a race between motorcycles to a race between people, because he, in the way that he put his chin right down on the filler cap on his Yamaha 500 last year, just rode the wheels off the bike all through the race and made the victory without any question. I was saying for the Suzukis to be in it, they've got to overtake this lot and start to pull back time. Look what Roger Hayes is doing, trying to get under the leader. Still Len Willing, that's right, and has overtaken Dowson. So Hayes, on the best placed of the Suzukis, in 5th place and a lap down, is starting to trying to pull back the time. Robbie Scollier on the bike at the moment. Hayes certainly started, and
that looks like a Roger Hayes style, but I'm pretty sure it might be Robert Scollier on the bike at the time. I'm sure Lenny Willing will be able to tell us. He's been close enough there.
Well, all you can say about the weather at Oran Park today is that it's been changeable. It was sprinkling before the start, was actually fine at the start on a slightly damp track, cleared, then rained, has cleared again, is threatening rain again, and I think will go on like that all through the day, much to the disappointment of the riders. Paul Feeney on bike number 5 is in 4th place, or he was until he attacked Malcolm Campbell, got through on him as they came down to Castrol corner, and he launched the FZ Yamaha up into 3rd place ahead of the VF 1000 Honda. Malcolm Campbell goes back to 4th now. Ben Middlemas, in fact, riding that bike at the moment, of course, not Campbell. Campbell, the man who handled it in the opening stint, took it past the hour-and-a-half mark. Ben and Glenn Middlemas, 2 brothers from Victoria, who both going very well. Ben tending to specialise in superbikes and production bike racing.
With almost 2 hours of the Castrol 6-hour down, most of the attrition so far has been through crashes, but bike 7, the Team Matic Yamaha of Glenn Williams and Glenn Taylor, is in the pits with an unspecified oil leak. Dave Cullen, the ace mechanic, is working on it at the moment, but they can't identify where the oil leak is coming in. This bike certainly looks like it's hit big troubles.
Robert Holden and Bobby Tooby on a Suzuki.
Len Willing has been riding now for 2 hours and 5 minutes, still on the Kawasaki 900 that's firmly in the lead, has a lead of about 7 seconds.
That's probably just exactly what he wants. That's the sort of position you'd want to be at this stage of the race. He's got a good lead. There's no problems, the bike's going well. Hopefully he can keep it up.
20 minutes before he's due to pit, and in 2nd place, challenging Willing at one stage, is Michael Dowson now on the saddle on bike number 1, but Willing has dispatched him, kept him back in 2nd place.
Well, that's once again, Will, these guys here, the Dowson McGee team, are in a perfect position. They've got those long extended fuel runs. When they go, or when Willing goes in for the pits, they're going to be handed the lead on the plate.
It's a gap of about 42.3 seconds back to bike number 5, presently being ridden by Paul Feeney. It's done a great job to haul itself up into that position, the job done by Richard Scott in the first session.
Well, Scotty was a little slow right at the start. It's taken him a long time to get through, but he's in a perfect position now and is looking good for a good finish.
And then in 4th place, Malcolm Campbell, who's been in most of the major placings after starting in 18th grid position, but now in a good 4th position, same number of laps as the leader. same lap as the leader. Then the Suzukis, Roger Hayes leading that charge. Robbie Scolyer actually looking after the bike at the moment, number 16, and looking after bike number 6 is the New Zealander David Hiscock, taking it over from Neil Chivers, who had a good first stint. The bike didn't seem so good in the wet, but led very convincingly in the dry and is still in 6th place after 2 hours. Into the pits early comes Wayne Gardner on bike number 2. Must be some sort of a problem. The Mentor Motorcycles bike, Gardner has been riding it very hard and trying to make ground. Let's go down to John Smales.
Wayne Gardner, what happened?
I fell off. What does it look like?
Where did it happen, Wayne?
I don't know, just got a bit greasy out there. I lost the front end.
Is the bike too badly damaged, do you think, or what?
No, I just bent the brake lever, that's all.
Well, it's not the sort of day that any man wants to be out there, Wayne.
No, I'd rather be sat up in front of the television watching it with a beer in my hand.
For a man like yourself, I guess you can't really afford to take a big risk these days with your Grand Prix career at stake.
No, I was going quite steady, and it was a bit of a shock to me. I didn't even expect it. It sort of came out of the blue. It was on the slowest corner on the track, so it's probably more embarrassing than actually injury to myself.
Well, Wayne Gardner, here's hoping we see you out there again this afternoon, if only.
I'll be back out. I go back out, it just bent the lever. It's slipperier than what I thought it was out there. So I just have to keep going now.
And that's Len Willing switching on to reserve tank on the lead bike number 4. He now has a couple of laps, Graham Crosby, before he needs to pit.
Well, what's happening is they run the bike on full tank until it starts to misfire, or in this case, he's actually coming in. So he's probably actually run out of gas and he's taken it off reserve and put it at the prime position, which directs fuel straight into the carburetors.
Okay, so the lead bike into the pits, 2 hours, 26 minutes and 22 seconds of racing. Len Willing's been in the saddle the entire time. The clock ready to time him as he stops now. And down to John Smales.
Right on schedule for the Kawasaki team. They've been getting 1 hour and 12 minutes per pit stop. No rear tyre yet in the entire race because the wet weather has allowed them to conserve the rear tyre. Len Willing has done a gargantuan effort, 2.5 hours on the bike, almost. And Ian Perro now goes out. He will do 2 stints and then will probably hand over to Len Willing for the last stint only.
And what a lovely stop. 18.3 seconds for a full fuel up and rider change. And now Ian Perro, tall New Zealander, so many of them in this race and so many of them going well, now trying to feel his way into a very difficult situation. But he really has had a stunning year this year, Ian Perro. He's won one of the races, the only victory for Kawasaki in the major production races this year. He'll expect bikes to go past him for a little while and probably be, well, sort of happy about it. Bike 34 is Steve Harley, David Lucci. And let's hear, though, from Len Willing, the man who guided number 4 to the lead at the end of 2 hours and 25 minutes.
Len Willing, a big effort to stay out there for as long as he did, but probably the good team tactic.
Oh, I think it was the smartest move, looking at just the time it takes people to get going in this sort of thing, you know. Once you're out there and you know it, that's the smartest move, I think.
You saved a fair bit of time, Len, by not having to take tyre changes.
Yeah, well, really it was the weather that saved that, but we were planning to go 2 stints on each rear tyre anyway, even in the dry condition. Somehow in the dry, I don't think it would have been as easy physical to do 2 sessions, but no.
Could you have gone further? We noticed you went on to reserve tank with only a lap to go before you came in.
No, actually, I went on to reserve very early, and they didn't see me point, and then I put it back on to see if we could keep going a bit further. But we weren't running out, no. But wouldn't have been much left, I don't think.
And what was your advice to Ian Perro when you put him on the bike?
I just told him a few different gears to use to what we're normally using, and he'll go real good. He'll go terrific. Thank you.
Ian Perro leading the race with Wayne Gardner still in the saddle on the bike that he dropped and has had a brake lever replaced, and he's wrestling with trying to improve his position from way down in the field. Ian Perro very aware of the fact that he's got one of the world's best Grand Prix motorcycle racers hot on his hammer, but equally, less than 2 seconds away, he has the man who wants the lead from him there. Michael Dowson chasing on the Yamaha FZ 750, number 1. That's first and second place in the Castrol 6 Hour.
Well, tyre condition is imperative today, but for Dunlop, Dennis Neal, things aren't so good.
Well, we would like things to be better. I think, John, we proved during the week that Robert Holden was stringing off some very, very fast lap times, about half a second quicker than anyone else. We were pretty confident about 3 days ago, but can't do much with what Huey's doing.
Some of the teams have a tyre which is working in the wet and the dry. You had a compound for both, did you not?
Yes, we've got different compounds for both. It seems like at the moment we've got a little bit of a way to go with our compounding. Pirelli, for instance, have got a tyre which seems to work today and handles the dry conditions quite well, although that was a bit questionable had it been hot, whereas we have developed tyres which suit either wet or dry conditions, and we've been caught out.
This is the situation for second and third place, where bike number 5, Paul Feeney, riding it at the moment, has now slotted up in front of bike number 1 being ridden by Michael Dowson. So Feeney has done a great job to catch, overtake, and as you can see, to pull away very convincingly from the man who won last year's race. And in the way he's riding, he'll be setting sail after the Kawasaki number 4 that's leading the race, presently being ridden by Ian Perrow. So Feeney really in the groove and going well into second place, one of only 3 bikes on the same number of laps. That is the Kawasaki of Ian Perrow, Len Willing. Second place now, Feeney, and sharing it with Richard Scott, and in third place, Michael Dowson and Kevin McGee. This is the race for the lead, with Paul Feeney being challenged by, and successfully by, Paul Feeney catching and overtaking, in fact, Ian Perrow, who was leading on the Kawasaki, romps into the lead, and it was inevitable virtually because he pulled back from 6.2 seconds about 6 laps ago, but then it was helped by the fact that finally Perrow got held up by the John Pace Jeff Sale bike number 3 in behind him now, and Feeney launched himself as they came down to Castrol Corner for heavy braking to come onto the main straight. And so for the first time now, the Richard Scott, Paul Feeney, Matic team bike goes into the lead. That makes 6 different bikes and riders who've led this Castrol 6 Hour. They've been running for very nearly 3 hours, Graham Crosby.
Yes, I was just going to point that out. It's just coming up to the 3 hour mark now, and Feeney might have a very short-lived lead, probably about another 2 laps, I would say, and he'll be pulled in there and probably thrown off the bike and filled her up with gas and away out with another rider on it. He's really on the ragged edge there, going for it.
And from third place goes Michael Dowson, holding third behind Paul Feeney, now the leader, and then Ian Perrow in second place. Yamaha from Kawasaki in third place should be that Yamaha, and in fact probably still is in third place, ahead, 1 lap ahead of Malcolm Campbell on Honda number 9. On number 16, Roger Hayes in the best placed of the Suzuki 750s, and on number 6, David Hiscock riding the Neil Chivers bike number 6, but they all 1 lap down, the last 3. So back to the pits comes Dowson, very disappointed in himself. The bike, Graham Crosby, that we all noticed was slithering around a lot.
Yeah, it was sliding around a lot, but it's totally controllable. The thing that we've got to remember here now is that the pit crew are geared for a fuel change.
And in they go, just over the 3 hour mark by 28 seconds. So in terms of when the pit stop was due, they're on schedule. But of course they've lost a little bit more time And down with a closer view of it is John Smales.
And well, in fact, they had another 20 minutes to go before their scheduled stop. The problem is that the rear tyre has gone off on the bike. What they are doing at the moment is putting the tyre from the first session back on. It's been nicely bedded in, and they feel this will make the difference. Michael Dowson has been riding his heart out, but he just couldn't make that rear tyre work, and now they're very slowly, in fact, putting the tyre back on and making some handlebar adjustments as well. Now, there's the problem. Dowson's also had problems at the front of the bike. Kevin McGee standing by now to get on. The team is incredibly impressed with this young McGee, and they're talking about seeing if they can leave him on for at least, well, the rest of the race, if they can possibly do it, because there is only one more stop remaining for this machine. McGee standing by, but the time's ticking away and the bike's obviously in trouble around the front end. It's now 1 minute and 8 seconds gone.
With streaming rain, and here he is, Feeney into the pits, the race leader. So Paul Feeney comes in after having done a tremendous job, got that bike into the lead for the first time, handing it over to Richard Scott, dreadfully difficult conditions, and down to John Smales.
And Feeney is staying on the machine. He's been in for only 16 seconds, taken a small drink, not a change of rear tyre. They've left the rear tyre on. 17.48 seconds was the stop. And Paul Feeney, the rain master from Goulburn, is back in the Castrol 6 Hour.
Michael Dowson well back in the field on bike number 1, from which he's already had one fall. He is now in 7th place outright. The bike repaired after a pit stop that was nearly 2.5 minutes, but he's out soldiering again in by far the worst conditions that we've seen in the 6 Hour so far.
A lot of riders have been complaining about the 16-inch wheel in the wet, and here's a prime example. The contact patch is big, but it's a very, very quick steering bike, and in the case where you go through a big puddle, you get this aquaplaning effect, and you'll just see it here, the front wheel stepping out, so to speak.
For the race leader, the third scheduled pit stop right on time at 1:39 in the afternoon. Ian Perrow is to remain on the bike. There is to be no tyre change. The Michelin tyre has lasted the entire race long, natural in these conditions, and he's out in 15.567 seconds, and Ian Perrow is looking pretty good, although with one extra fuel pit stop to take. Of course, he's going to have to really ride his heart out in this session.
Real drama in the Castrol 6 Hour, 3 3/4 hours into the race. It's Wayne Gardner down and the leader, Paul Feeney. Feeney's first to recover, gets onto the bike. Wayne Gardner left to sort out his problem, the second fall for the Mentor Triple M rider. But Feeney's not the slightest bit interested in that. He was only 21.2 seconds as we see the Honda, the best placed. Sorry, not the best placed Honda at all. That's Malcolm Campbell, has been virtually all day, other than the opening few laps. But a sad day for Wayne Gardner, a man who's come back here with a sensational reputation after a great year in Europe. 4th in the World 500cc Championship on an inferior bike to Freddie Spencer, the world champion. Wayne Gardner says, no, it's all over, but Rod Cox looks on and is prepared to give it a go. But the real interest and significance of it, I suspect, is in Paul Feeney and what sort of condition bike number 5 is in.
I see Richard Scott ran across from the pit area at about 1,000 miles an hour, but by the time he got there, Feeney was up and gone. Quicker than a startled gazelle.
Feeney is coming round now over the dog leg, and let's see what he's doing with the bike. He's feeling it out, and presently he may know that there's something wrong that necessitates a pit stop, but from the way he's riding it,
I would suggest that if Feeney's riding it okay and there's nothing totally damaged, he'll just keep going.
Yes, I think he might.
Keep going.
Said it was over the dog leg. It's not. It's obviously round the tight back section and onto the Goodyear Bridge. And that puts the Kawasaki of Len Willing back into the lead. Ian Perrow presently piloting that bike. And this emphasises what a number of riders have said, probably your thoughts too, Graham Crosby, certainly Dennis Neals, and others that rain makes the race into more of a race of chance than of rider ability. Do you agree with that?
It certainly removes the procession feeling here, but you know, there's so many things can happen. Like in a prime example here, we've got the leader and Wayne Gardner, two well-known personalities, both ending up sliding along the road on their bum. Not nice at all.
No, and Michael Dawson's done the same thing, and Paul Feeney doesn't look to me like somebody that's stopping, and nor is this one. A bike that's been in and out of the lead. There have been 6 different riders in the lead at some stage, but Len Willing and Ian Perro on the Kawasaki number 4, and there's Gardner. And how slippery is it? That is utter disgust.
A roller skate in a gravel pit. Absolutely brilliant.
Dear oh me. It emphasises, and now look at that. He's got to walk it out.
That is a VF Honda, not an XT Honda, is it?
Yeah. Look, wheel spinning even there. Now that is how hard it is off the edge of the track. Look at it. Crazy, crazy. And you don't in fact blame the rider for coming down there. That's impossible.
Ah, this is atrocious.
That, yeah. Yeah, not a great deal of interest, and who can blame him? Well, there's Kevin McGee, who put bike 1 into the lead and being squeezed very hard by Ian Perro, who, however, is a very fair rider and gave him room. Now, the situation here is that the lead bike in the race is number 4, Ian Perro. And look at McGee storm past him on the 750 Yamaha and live very, very dangerously indeed. He is in 3rd place on bike number 1. He was 1 lap down. He's just now the full lap virtually behind the leading bike, and sandwiched between those two is bike number 5. That is Richard Scott and Paul Feeney in the bike that crashed when it was in the lead. Look at the way McGee is storming away. The Castrol 6-hour has nearly 2 hours left to run. So this bike is obviously still in the contest, and the rider in the saddle particularly thinks it is.
The battered Honda of Wayne Gardner and Rod Cox enters the pits. Billy Hill, the team manager, is making up his mind whether continuation is worthwhile. I think Wayne Gardner's made up his mind already. I'll see if I can grab him quickly. Wayne, you just don't need a day like today.
No, I came home for an easy ride this year and ended up with the worst ride of this year completely, but that's the way it goes.
Well, in all your European experience, have you ever seen conditions like this?
I was actually going to pull in when it was just pouring down, and I couldn't believe it. There's puddles and rivers across the track, and the bike was just aquaplaning, and I nearly ran off the end of the straight here, and I was going to call it quits, and then it stopped, and there was just puddles everywhere, and then I was just riding quite steady around there, and I thought, oh great, the last 5 minutes of my stint, and I was about to come in, and it just turned around on me, and then Feeney come round and he did the same. It's just really, really slippery. It's just incredible. I've never ever ridden in conditions as slippery as that in my life.
Well, are you going to continue this afternoon, Wayne?
I think I'll probably give it a miss. I think 2's lucky, maybe 3 could be bad serious, you know.
This is the situation in the 16th Castrol 6-hour after 4 hours. Bike number 4 back into the lead by virtue of the crash when Paul Feeney was riding bike 5.
Well, the Kawasaki here is being ridden extremely well by these 2 pairings. They're going very, very well indeed. There's no problems at all. They're going exactly as planned. And I'm sure if you went down to the pits and asked Neville Doyle, the boss down there, he would just laugh it off. This is the way it's supposed to be.
Paul Feeney, one of a number who've had a bit of a problem. He crashed, was involved with Wayne Gardner. We don't know who was responsible, if indeed they did cause the accident between the 2 of them, but gave away 1st place, but in fact is still only 27 seconds behind in 2nd.
Well, Feeney's been riding, you know, on the ragged edge for a little while, and I would think that a crash was imminent. I didn't think it'd be this soon, though.
And then the 3rd placed Yamaha FZ 750 that we just saw unlap itself, so it's on the same number of laps, 164 completed, as by the leading pair.
And when we were watching these 2 before, they were all over the track. They're both riding very, very well, and particularly McGee has really got the bit between his teeth.
Behind those, 2 laps bit down now to them. is fourth placed Malcolm Campbell, Glenn Middlemiss, and I wouldn't exactly discount them either. Chivers and Neville Hiscock, that's Neil Chivers, and then Rob Phillis and Scott Stevens, who after that first stint, when Phillis got the bike into the lead, haven't really featured since then and have had anything up to 2 of the Suzuki 750s in front of them. Roger Hayes has been in front but has fallen back now to 7th. So that's the situation after 4 hours in the Castrol 6 hour and 164 laps completed. And here from second place into the pits is bike number 5, Paul Feeney. Two stints, nearly 3 hours in the saddle, and a crash as well as he hands over 36.5 seconds in arrears to the lead bike, John Smales.
And Paul Feeney is staggered off the bike. His right leg is is hurting him a lot. He either has cramps or he's badly injured as the bike goes out in 21 minutes 30 seconds. Feeney had to be brought in early because he couldn't go over the 3-hour limit, and the man is absolutely history after probably one of the bravest rides we'll ever see in a Castrol 6 hour. Paul Feeney, probably the bravest effort we've seen for a long time in a Castrol 6 hour. What's wrong with your leg?
I just hurt it when I went down, John. I hurt my back. It smelled me back when we moved.
Yeah. How was the pain after that?
No, it wasn't too bad. I just had to get my mind back onto what we were doing. Took a while, but it's looking good at the moment.
Well, 3 hours on the bike, that's a mammoth effort in these sorts of conditions.
Yeah, well, things were going well. Unfortunate we had that fall that put us back a bit, but I hope we can still finish up there. I'm sure we can. Richard will do a fine job.
What caused the fall?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether Wayne's bike hit me or not, because Wayne came off behind me. I don't know whether I went down first, but the bike was fine. The next thing I was on the ground. I don't know whether Wayne's bike hit it or what happened.
What condition is the bike in?
Clutch lever was bent down under the bar and the footrest bent back and the gear stick's bent, but other than that it's fine.
Into the pits should be coming, and in fact we get the signal from Kevin McGee. He's in second place, and in fact the first 3 bikes all have a pit stop remaining. That's Ian Perrow on the Kawasaki number 4, who is 80 seconds in front of Kevin McGee, who is only 3.8 seconds in front of Malcolm Campbell, who's now in third place, and who's 8.5 seconds in front of bike number 5, that is the only one of the 4 that are on the same number of laps that's done its last stop. So these pit stops are absolutely critical, and John Smales can tell us all about them.
McGee arrives, they've checked out the condition of the rear tyre, they decide they don't need to change it. There's fuel pouring down all over the bike from an overflowing fuel tank, and they're working on a nut down round the back of the machine at the rear of the crankcase. And the nut won't go in, they can't get it there. It's a washer and a nut that's trying to get up into position and it won't work. And the time slipping away, it's 37 seconds. The anguish in the pits. Michael Dawson round to the bike. Kevin McGee just walks away, he can't stand it. Okay, she's running. The bike was running before he was even off the stand. 46.43, and without the nut back on, Michael Dawson is back into the field. They've sent him out without a footrest. There is a little kick plate just back from where the foot peg should be, and that's what he'll use to support himself for the next hour and a half. And Graham Crosby, I wouldn't want to be riding a bike in these conditions with that handicap.
Well, this is almost as bad as Bathurst and having to drive around with the back of your seat falling off. I know I've had to do it myself after crashing, but it's definitely not something that I'd wish, and especially in conditions like this, because you use every inch of the road, and you use the bike with your feet and everything. Now to have just sitting on the bike there without your foot pegs, well. And round he comes to the pits. He has a lead of 1 lap and 13.6 seconds over bike number 5 that's in second place at the moment. That's Richard Scott, Paul Feeney. Let's go down, though, to the pits and to the action with John Smales.
And it's been a perfect day for Team Kawasaki. They've so far had 3 pit stops. There's 1 to go. Ian Perrow has been on the bike for 2 sessions. So has Len Willing. He's off. Keep in mind that this team has not changed a back tyre the whole day. They're running a Pirelli front, a Michelin rear, and their stop was 14.84 seconds. That's the fastest for the day. And Len Willing's going out to stroke it round for the remaining 1 hour and 10 minutes of the Castrol 6 hour.
And underneath Malcolm Campbell goes Michael Dowson on bike number 1. He comes from 4th to 3rd. They are 1 lap down on the leading pair, but look at the way he suddenly sat himself in the seat and tucked down. It's over Ben Middlemas, actually. Sorry, Malcolm Campbell, the tough Tasmanian. Not many people have gone past Malcolm today, but a couple have got past his co-rider, Ben Middlemas. And Michael Dowson now, along with the other 3, 1 Honda and 2 Yamahas that are chasing the lead Kawasaki, a large task in front of them. I was about to say that we're headed towards a dry track towards the end of the race, but it's far from so because it's raining again. In fact, bike number 5, that is in 2nd place outright, is 49.9 seconds in arrears. Richard Scott, 49, let's say 50 seconds behind the Kawasaki number 4, being ridden now by Len Willing for the final stint.
Well, on a day like today, you would have expected someone sometime to start blowing about the laps. The lap scorers have been out in the wet with us for the day, and if their lap charts are anything like my notebook, well, you can imagine what sort of a situation they're in. At the moment, there's some contention about 4th place. Clyde Wolfenden, the Team Honda Australia manager, is saying there's no way his team's in 4th place. He feels they're up higher than that. In fact, he says, they could even be in the lead. And for all of you who remember the horrors of the 1970s and the lap score contentions in the Castrol 6 Hour, let's hope for all our sakes and the sake of motorcycling that they get this little drama sorted out as soon as they can.
So, things drawing to a typically Castrol 6 Hour tooth bite or nail biting conclusion, as Len Willing is doing absolutely everything he can to stroke that Kawasaki on towards the finish, but his lead is really being chewed away. Let's go down to John Smales.
Neville Doyle, people would say that 19 seconds is a reasonably commanding lead, but it's being eaten away awfully quickly.
Yes, we're not too worried about it. I think Len knows exactly where he is. Whoops. He was.
He's gone, we're told.
Willing is off the bike.
We're told he's off the bike, Neville.
No, he's back on and going. Just.
Is he still in the lead, Neville?
Yes, just. By about 3 seconds.
So now it becomes terribly interesting indeed, Mr. Doyle.
It was interesting before.
Has he got any problem with the machine? Is it a tyre problem? You've not changed the tyre for the entire race.
No, not had any problems at all.
But now he's come off the bike once. You've got to reckon it's down around the tyre area that he's got a problem.
No, I don't think so. I'd suggest the puddles on the track are the biggest problem.
Neville Doyle, we'll leave you to it.
Well, I've said before in Castrol 6 Hours, unbelievable, and it is unbelievable. It's just as unbelievable as much of the James Hardy 1000 was from Bathurst. You would not dare script it. People wouldn't believe it. People would reckon it was unrealistic, and yet it's happened.
Well, this is really interesting, Will, because now we've got 2 bikes running around without any foot pegs. It looks as if it's poor old Len running around here without a foot peg. Actually, it's a gear change one. It's just lost it off. It's just come off totally now.
Yes, it just went into the middle of the track there. And I don't think there's any way Len Willing will pull into the pits unless there's absolute disaster aboard. Have a look down in the pit area, the Kawasaki camp. Ian Perro couldn't ask to meet a nicer guy and a man more deserving of victory.
This has ended up being right like a sprint race towards the end here. We've probably only got about, probably 5-6 laps left.
Fewer laps than that. Perhaps 5 laps. Willing and Richard Scott. Richard Scott, who went to Daytona with a 250 Kawasaki, and Willing has lost the lead. Has he not? No, he did lose it there, but had the line for the corner and was first into it. I reckon Scott got his nose in front there, but it doesn't count because through the corner it was Willing.
Well, Lenny's obviously got a problem with one of the handlebar controls because he's trying to bend it back into some sort of shape, at the same time trying to keep the bike on the track, which is pretty difficult at the best of times.
Scott's got him covered, there's no question of it. And the other point of interest, and I said that what happened to Willing could happen to Scott. Nothing is certain at this stage. Willing just trailing his leg, and Scott saying very wisely, he left that lunge a little bit late, that got him. So the Castrol 6R has a new leader, and it is Richard Scott, and a fairly jubilant, as you may understand, Matic Pirelli team in the pit area. Half a second between them as they went down the straight. Willing hanging on grimly, and Michael Dowson 9.4 seconds behind. Michael Dowson, I bet his crew are absolutely waving him along, and there are 4 3/4 minutes remaining. That's Paul Feeney. Look at him, limping. And slotted in between them at this stage, Neil Chivers and David Hiscock, between first-placed Richard Scott and second-placed Len Willing. Now he comes up to Robert Holden, Neil Robinson. And Scott, boy, does the adrenaline pump at this stage.
And this corner here is where, if he's going to have trouble, this is where it's going to be, because he's been going sideways just about every lap. He's got that break now between Lenny. He's put a rider in between himself and Lenny, which is just the sort of thing you need with a few more laps to go.
Just got some news, incidentally, if you reckon this is all right, up at Surfers Paradise, the last round of the Endurance Championship on lap 16, it started raining, and the top 12 cars are out of the race, and they've stopped the race at Surfers Paradise. Last round of the Manufacturers Championship up there has gone crazy. Well, motor racing can be unpredictable. Richard Scott gunning, going for his second victory in a row in the Castrol 6R.
Well, this would make it, if this is exactly what the results are going to be, Yamaha have put a 2-stroke on the line and also a 4-stroke in 2 consecutive years, which is a great thing for Yamaha.
Richard Scott not only was first last year, but was 5th in 1983 and 2nd in 1982. He was first in the 3-hour race back in 1983. One of his hobbies, the 26-year-old, is that he's a golfer. But his occupation is professional motorcycle racer. The method of finishing this race is that the time counts down now. We're not going to have a problem like last year where it went 3 minutes short. The time counts down, and after it gets to 0, and it's showing 3 minutes at the moment, the next time the leading bike crosses the finishing line is the finish. So it will be 6 hours plus. Gap 1.37 seconds, first to second. And to Michael Dowson, 6 seconds. Michael Dowson is in with a real chance of picking up as they go past Rod Cox on bike number 2. There's a real chance of Dowson getting into this act as well. There's one. That's the third-placed man. Michael Dowson's the name. Motorcycle racing the game. And trying to make it a 1-2 for Yamaha. 1-3 at the moment. Kawasaki second, Honda fourth, Suzuki 5th, 6th, 8th, 9th and 10th. But up front's where it counts for the manufacturers. 1 minute remains, 1 minute. So this might be the last lap, because if it Yes, they'll get to the finishing line before this, so they will have a full lap after this. There's one remaining. It was just a question of whether they got to the finishing line before 4 o'clock, but they will not achieve that. So it's Richard Scott across the line, followed then by Len Willing.
This will have to be the longest lap that Richard Scott has ever done.
And 8.3 seconds from first place to third, Michael Dowson. So Scott, I don't think without any doubt, has got first wrapped up, providing he doesn't fall. And Len Willing proved that that can easily be done. And I really do feel, not only for Len Willing, but for the more helpless Ian Perrow back in the pits. Because, as I say, you couldn't ask to meet a nicer guy, better ambassador for motorcycle racing, or a better rider. And he, helpless, saw their chances dashed. You could see Malcolm Campbell in there too. And he is on the same number of laps. That's Ben Middlemiss, in fact, on bike number 9.
The checkered flag should be just being prepared now for the end of a great race.
So, the clock showing 0. This is the last one. Through Yamaha corner, appropriately for the FZ 750 number 5. For the Matic Pirelli racing team, up over Honda corner for the final time and down to Castrol.
Flagman
sweeping
ready.
Through there, up onto the straight for the final time. Nothing can go wrong now for Richard Scott as he goes across the finishing line, the winner by about 4 seconds over Len Willing and about another 2 seconds to third placed and another of the Yamahas. It was Michael Dowson.
What a brilliant race. What a brilliant finish.
Just a sensational run, and one has to say that Richard Scott was pretty lucky. But that comes from keeping on the pressure. And he could have relaxed, and his crew and he could have said there was no chance. The 16th Castrol 6-hour result there. First and third to FZ 750 Yamaha. Second place to GPZ 900 Kawasaki. And there's not one of those riders, teams or bikes that didn't earn the place and in fact do enough to have well earned first place. Great efforts from all of them. What a great shot of Paul Feeney, and a really lovely guy. And going now to the presentation, we'll leave it until John Smales is ready to make the presentation to the Castrol 6-hour winners.
There has never been a harder, more closer fought Castrol 6-hour than this 16th running at Oran Park. The winners, Richard Scott and Paul Feeney. To present the trophy, John Ellicock, the Managing Director of Castrol Australia.
Many congratulations on winning the Castrol 6-hour. Tremendous.
For Richard Scott, what did you think in those closing stages when you saw Lenny Willing come down?
I didn't actually see him come down. It was sort of, I didn't know what to make of it. I thought he must have, but I didn't know at the time.
When you came up alongside him, what sort of competition did he give you for the lead?
I think he was having a bit of rear tyre trouble, and our bike was in good shape and still being able to go at the end.
Richard, while you were riding around there in those closing stages, you must surely have thought that victory wasn't in your grasp.
Well, yeah, it looked a bit hard there for a while. Paul did such a good job in the middle 3 hours there in the wet, and I'm just glad to come through.